I hope that you guys are doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha, and I welcome you to my channel and to all the different videos I've done on INFJs and all of our different quirks and all of our paradoxes and contradictions. I'm back inside again because it's so cold outside. It's like -2 or something, and it's just freezing, and -9 with the wind. There's actually two different temperatures. So wind chill is the temperature that we have with the wind, and it's actually obviously colder. And then you have the typical temperature without the wind, and so obviously it's always much colder with the wind. All this to say, I'm back inside. I hope you guys don't mind it too much. In this video, I want to speak to you guys about death and how I've done a video on this previously, how INFJs are obsessed with death. But one of the things that I've noticed for myself is that people don't like talking about death, which makes absolute sense. Who wants to talk about death? I mean, except INFJs. INFJs love talking about death. Not only their own death, because we're obsessed with our own death, we're always talking about it with ourselves. I mean, I spend a lot of my time thinking about my death. What will happen when I die? I want to make sure that one of the things I do before I die is take care of all of my different assets, and I know I own a couple of properties, to make sure that all of my stuff that I own is kind of distributed to my brother and sister so that, they can have it once I'm dead. The will that I've written out. I've already written out a will, so that the government or the estates or whatever it might be, the people know that this is where all my stuff should go. I don't have a lot of stuff, but I want to make sure that it goes to the right people. And I've already done this. I gave my will to my sister 10 or 15 years ago, as soon as I realized that, I'm traveling a lot, I'm doing a lot of things, I'm on the road a lot. What if I die all of a sudden and people don't know that 50% of my assets have to go to my sister and 50% to my brother? That's the only thing I care about. I want to make sure it all goes to them, not to some random government agency, right? And so I've done that already. I'm obsessed with the idea of, what's my funeral going to look like? What are people going to say? What are people going to think? Obsessed with the idea of, will I be cremated? I've actually done it so that my organs are donated to research, medical research. All my organs, my eyes, my skin, which is really weird if you think about it, and things like that. So I want all of it to be donated to research, right? So it will be interesting to see how that works out. Will I even have a soul if all of my body parts are donated to science? Will it actually work that way? Of course it will, but I mean, that's an interesting question to think about. I'm also obsessed with the idea of other people's death. Now, this is something that I don't talk about a lot with my people, because if I was telling them I'm obsessed with their death, they might think that I want them to die. That's not the whole point of thinking about death. I think for me specifically, I love thinking about death because it really makes me live fully. The more I can think about death every single day, the more I know that I might die soon. And I always think about, what do I want to achieve with my life if I died tomorrow? What do I want to do today? What do I want to achieve today? What do I want to leave behind? What legacy do I want to leave behind? What do I want people to say about me? What do I want people to think about me? And what do I want to leave behind? Because I will die, if not tomorrow, day after tomorrow, or some other day. And so I want to make sure that the legacy, the stuff that I'm leaving behind, these videos, the ideas, the written words that I've written, that I'm leaving behind, my blog, obviously, my stories, my books, all of this stuff is going to be left behind when I'm gone, right? And is this something that I want to leave behind? Are these the words that I want to leave behind? Are these the sentences, the phrases, the voice that I want to leave behind, right? And so I'm always thinking about that. And the more I think about that, the more I feel like I live fully, because I'm like, well, I could die tomorrow. Okay, cool. I'm going to do a couple of videos that I really, really, really want to share with the world. If I die tomorrow, I've shared these words with them and I feel good about it, right? And so every single night when I go to bed, if I don't wake up tomorrow, then I know that I have done the best. I've lived my life to the best of my ability. I've done everything that I wanted to do, and I don't feel bad about having wasted my time here. Now, I think I'm a little bit more anxious or a little bit more involved with this because I wasted so much of my life previously, right? My 20s were a huge waste of time. I spent all my time clubbing and drinking and getting wasted. Oh my God, there was so much wasted time then. So the moment I think about that time, I think, I have to come back here, and I really have to live my life properly right now in this moment in time, because my 30s are not going to be like that. I'm going to make sure that I use my 30s to the best of my ability. So if I die anytime soon, I can say, okay, yes, my 20s were a waste. I did not do anything useful, but my 30s were absolutely used to the best of my ability, right? Now, coming back to the point of us being obsessed with other people's death. I have been obsessed with my parents' death since I was a very young child, but since I was very young. Not because I wanted them to die. I love them. I don't want them to die, but I had this thing inside of my head that I had to be prepared for it. I had to prepare for my parents' death. And the way I prepared for it is obviously mentally, not physically. I couldn't physically prepare for it. I was too young. I couldn't get a job, or I couldn't save up money. I didn't get an allowance. We were too poor for that. So I couldn't physically save up for it. I couldn't physically prepare for it. But mentally, I could prepare myself for it, right? And also, I used to think to myself, if my parents died, then I would be in charge of my siblings. My siblings were younger than me, much younger than me. Well, 3 years younger. One's 3 years younger and the other one's 6 years younger. And so and to me, they were children, they were babies. And so all the responsibility of taking care of them fell upon my shoulders. Now, I know it was very foolish of me to think this way because, I mean, we had a lot of family and relatives and my parents had a lot of friends. So if anything, there were a billion people that could have taken care of us. But for some reason, I didn't think about all those people, and I was like, okay, if they die, I have to take care of everything. I have to take care of my siblings. I have to pay for their school. I have to pay for their university. I have to get a job. I have to make sure that I have enough food on the table for them. I have to get them toys. And so all of this was in my head. And so I was planning in my head what I would do in case my parents died. That was one of the reasons I thought about their death a lot, because I wanted to make sure that I was prepared for it for my siblings' sake. I did not want them to want for anything. I wanted to make sure that if need be, I could be the best substitute parent for them. Right? Weird thoughts, I know, but this is something that INFJs think about a lot. The same thing when I am with someone. It's been a while since I've been with someone, but whenever I am with someone or in a relationship or even friends, I'm always thinking about their death. I'm thinking, okay, so if this person dies, how would I feel? What would I do? What would I say? How would it go? And I'm always thinking about it because I like to visualize it and think about the scenarios. How would I behave? Would I cry? Would I throw myself on the floor like I've seen in some soap operas? Would I, bang my head against the wall? Would I do all that stuff? Mostly, obviously not, because I think what happens with all of these scenarios that we kind of play out in our head of all the different funerals that we attend or all the deaths that we encounter, we don't actually feel uncomfortable with death as a lot of people do. I think we think of death as our constant companion. If the Grim Reaper was a person, I think I'd be friends with him. I don't know where that thought came from. That was a sudden thought. It was actually out of nowhere. Okay. But I really think that's true. If Grim Reaper was actually a human being or a person or someone who walked around and caused people's death, I think I'd be friends with him. I'd be friends with him because I would like to ask him questions. I'd like to know what he thought and how he does his job and how he chooses who has to die. Does he have a roster? Does he have a long database of people who are going to die? How does it work, right? So it'd be a big mystery to me, and I think that'd be a really interesting friendship to have. It's a terrible thing to say, but I think that's actually true for all INFJs. INFJs love thinking about death. We like exploring the idea of death because it's just so fascinating. I mean, what happens after death? And what happens during death? And what about all those life after death experiences? I mean, they die and then they come back to life. Or they die and then experience death for a little bit and they're able to talk about it with people when they come back. I mean, that's so fascinating to me. I find it so interesting. And so sometimes, obviously, you might think that an INFJ thinks of death as more interesting than life. And I think that might be actually true. We do think of the dream world as more interesting than the real world, or the death world, the life after death, to be more interesting than this real world, because there's so many more possibilities there, and it's all about our imagination rather than the reality, which can be sometimes very drab and depressing, right? The reason I started doing this video, the reason I'm talking about death so much, is that my parents recently both of them have had a death scare. One of them had a heart attack. Both of them had heart attacks, and they're feeling like, as everyone does, as soon as you have a death scare, they're, afraid of death. And I noticed that in them because they've started making all of these changes. They started eating healthier. They started walking around a little bit more. My mom's joined yoga classes, hot yoga, and I've been telling her about this forever, and she's never done it. All of a sudden, she's joined it, so it's great. I'm so happy. They're drinking green smoothies every day. So, they're doing all this stuff because obviously they realize that they might die soon and they want to postpone it as much as possible. But for me, I thought that was a really, really good thing. And I actually said to them, you guys are so lucky to have had this death scare. And they were looking at me like I'm insane, but I explained myself to them. I said, now you know that you could die. And because you know that, you're going to live your life even more beautifully, even more fully. Because they've had that death scare and, they know, oh my God, I could have almost died. They could have died. Hundreds of people die of a heart attack every single day. They were lucky enough that we live in a beautiful country with really great healthcare, free healthcare. And so they were able to go. We can just get up and go to the hospital anytime we want because we're not afraid of being charged for it. So anytime my father felt a pain, he'd just go to the hospital. Every single time he had chest pain, he would just go to the hospital. My mom, the same thing. She had like arm pain and she's like, well, it's free. Why don't I just go? And that's why I love Canada, because it's not like, oh, well, I shouldn't go because it's going to cost me. We don't have to think about that. And that's the reason more and more people are saved rather than die, right? Rather than death, rather than dying. That was a wrong sentence. But anyways, so that works out really well for them. And it did work out well for them because it was a minor chest pain. My father was like, I don't know. And he went and it turned out to be a heart attack. My mom, same thing. Her arm was hurting. And she's like, oh, I'll just go. And it turned out to be a minor heart attack. And then they, were able to clean up their arteries. They both had quadruple bypass surgeries. My dad had triple and my mom had quadruple. Anyways, they're now realizing the importance of their life. I really, really like that for them because they realize how important it is to them. So the problem is that until you have that death scare, you just kind of treat life casually. You think, tra la 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 la, I'm going to live forever kind of thing, right? Right now I'm in my 30s. I'm 35 and I'm healthy enough. I'm very healthy. I take care of myself. So for right now, I have no fear that I'm going to die soon. I know that I'm going to die soon because it will happen either 10 years from now or 30 or 40, whatever. It's still soon enough for me because I want to do so many things. But mostly I'm healthy enough that I can imagine that I would have a full life ahead of me if nothing crazy happens, right? And so I'm not as afraid of death as they might be. But just having, even then, even though they're in their 50s and 60s, they still don't understand that they would die soon. And having this death scare has been really, really, really important to them because it's really prodded them to start living life in the way that they really wanted to. It has taught them, that they can't waste their moments anymore. They can't just casually live life as if they're going to live forever. The longevity hasn't it's still, we're only going to be living until 100 years or 120 max. It hasn't been extended yet, our lifespans, not as much as we'd like them to be, right? Also, that's another question. Would you live for 5,000-6,000 years if you could? I don't know if I would. I think it'd be so boring. But anyways, that's another question for another time. Oh, this video is already so long. I think I've diatribed on it long enough. I just love talking about death so much, as you guys can tell. I shall see you guys in the next video. Again, if you guys have any questions about this or any other topic, message me anytime. All my contact information is in the description below, or you can comment below. I love reading your comments. You guys are brilliant, brilliant, brilliant people, and I'm so happy that you guys are messaging me and asking me interesting questions. I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.